2016. She was standing at the bar waiting for her drink, laughing at something the bartender had said. The music was loud but not unbearable. The crowd was typical for a Friday night in late October. She wore a dark green sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. She checked her phone twice while she waited, smiling at something on the screen. When her drink arrived, she thanked the bartender, left a tip, and turned back toward the table where her friends were sitting. That was at 11:37 p.m. Security cameras captured the moment perfectly. Clear, well-lit, completely ordinary. That footage would later be watched thousands of times by investigators, family members, and internet sleuths, all searching for something they couldn't name. A warning, a clue, some indication of what was about to happen. But there's nothing there. Just a woman getting a drink at a bar on a Friday night. Just another moment in what should have been an unremarkable evening. Except it wasn't, because that was the last time anyone would ever see her alive. Her name was Maya Rothstein, though certain details have been changed to protect the privacy of those still affected by what happened. She was 28 years old, a graphic designer working for a marketing firm in a city along the East Coast. She lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood about 15 minutes from downtown. She had a close group of friends she'd known since college, a good relationship with her parents who lived 2 hours away, and a life that looked from the outside stable and content. People who knew her described her as creative, dependable, and thoughtful. She wasn't reckless, she wasn't careless. She was just a person living her life, making plans, showing up for the people she cared about. The kind of person you'd never expect to become a headline. That Friday started like any other. Maya woke around 7:30, made coffee, and spent 20 minutes scrolling through design inspiration on her laptop while she ate breakfast. She had a client meeting at 10, which went well according to her coworker who attended with her. They grabbed lunch together afterward at a cafe near the office, talked about weekend plans, complained mildly about a project deadline coming up. Maya mentioned she was meeting friends that night at a bar they'd been to before, nothing fancy, just drinks and conversation. She seemed relaxed, normal. Her coworker would later tell police there was nothing unusual about her demeanor, no indication she was worried about anything or anticipating any kind of trouble. Maya left work at 5:15. She stopped at a drugstore on the way home, purchased shampoo and face wash according to the receipt later recovered, and arrived at her apartment around 5:40. Her downstairs neighbor saw her come in, waved hello. Maya waved back. That was the last time anyone from her building remembers seeing her. She spent the next few hours at home, presumably getting ready to go out, though the exact details of what she did during that time are unknown. Her phone records show she sent several text messages to friends confirming plans, checked social media, and watched a video on YouTube around 7 p.m. At 7:53, she ordered food delivery from a Thai restaurant. The driver dropped it off at 8:19. She tipped well, said thank you, and closed the door. The driver remembered nothing unusual about the interaction. At 9:45, Maya left her apartment. Security footage from the building lobby shows her walking out wearing the green sweater and jeans she'd be wearing later at the bar. She carried a small black purse. She looked at her phone as she walked, the way most people do. She got into her car, a silver Honda Civic parked on the street, and drove toward downtown. Traffic was moderate. She arrived at the bar, a place called the Riverside Tavern, at 10:22. Her friends were already there, a group of 4 women and 2 men, all people she'd known for years. They'd claimed a table near the back. Maya joined them, hugged everyone, sat down. For the next hour, they drank, talked, laughed. It was exactly the kind of evening they'd had dozens of times before. The bar itself was busy, but not packed. It was a neighborhood spot, popular with locals, known for decent food and a relaxed atmosphere. The staff knew many of the regulars by name. Maya had been there maybe 10 times over the past 2 years. She wasn't a stranger, But she wasn't a fixture either. She ordered a vodka soda at the bar around 11:15, then went back for another at 11:37. That second trip to the bar is the last confirmed visual record of her. The security camera captured her clearly. She looked fine, comfortable, untroubled. She returned to the table with her drink and continued talking with her friends. At 11:59, Maya's phone pinged with a text message. One of her friends sitting next to her noticed her glance at it. Maya read the message, frowned slightly, and then typed a quick response. The friend didn't ask what it was. It seemed minor, the kind of interruption that happens constantly in a world where everyone is always reachable. Maya set her phone face down on the table and rejoined the conversation. At 12:14 a.m., she checked her phone again. This time, she stood up, grabbed her purse, and told her friends she was going outside to take a call. It was loud in the bar, she explained. She'd be right back. No one thought anything of it. People step outside to take calls all the time. It's normal, expected. One of her friends asked if everything was okay. Maya nodded, said it was fine, and walked toward the exit. That was the last time her friends saw her, the last words she spoke to any of them, the last moment they shared together. It was 12:16 a.m. on Saturday, October 22nd. The security camera at the bar's entrance shows Maya pushing through the door and stepping onto the sidewalk outside. She had her phone to her ear. She walked to the left, out of the camera's frame, moving toward the side street where she'd parked her car. And then the timeline fractures. From that moment forward, everything is reconstruction, inference, and uncertainty. Her friends waited for her to come back. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Someone joked she must have gotten into a long conversation. Another friend suggested maybe she'd run into someone she knew outside. At 12:30, one of the women texted Maya asking if she was coming back in. No response. At 12:38, she tried calling. The call went straight to voicemail, as if Maya's phone had been turned off or the battery had died. That's when the first flicker of concern started. By 12:45, 2 of her friends went outside to look for her. They walked around the block, checked the parking area where her car had been. The car was gone. They assumed she'd left, maybe gotten called away for an emergency, maybe felt sick and decided to go home without saying goodbye. It seemed strange, out of character, but not alarming. Not yet. They texted her again, called again. Nothing. At 1:15, the group decided to leave. Everyone assumed they'd hear from Maya the next day with an explanation. Maybe her phone had died and she'd just driven home. Maybe she'd explain everything in the morning. They went their separate ways, concerned but not panicked. It wasn't until the following afternoon, when multiple friends tried reaching Maya and got no response, that real worry set in. One friend drove to Maya's apartment around 3 p.m. on Saturday. Her car wasn't there. She knocked on the door. No answer. She called Maya's parents. They hadn't heard from her either. By 6 p.m. Saturday evening, Maya's mother had filed a missing person report. The investigation began immediately, though the first 24 hours were spent trying to establish basic facts. Where had Maya gone after leaving the bar? Why had her car disappeared? Who had she been talking to on the phone? Police obtained security footage from the Riverside Tavern and confirmed she'd left alone at 12:16. They canvassed nearby businesses, but most didn't have cameras pointed toward the street, and those that did showed nothing useful. Maya's car was entered into a database as a vehicle of interest. Her phone records were subpoenaed. Her apartment was searched with her parents' permission. Everything inside looked normal, no signs of disturbance, no indication she'd returned home after leaving for the bar. The phone records revealed critical information. The text message Maya had received at 11:59 came from a number her friends didn't recognize. It wasn't saved in her contacts. The message itself was brief. "Hey, are you out tonight? Can we talk?" Maya had responded, "I'm at Riverside. Who is this?" The reply came at 12:11. "It's complicated. Can you step outside for a minute? I'm nearby." Maya's response was sent at 12:13, right before she stood up to leave the table. "Okay, give me a sec." That was her last outgoing message. At 12:16, her phone received an incoming call from the same number. The call lasted 43 seconds, and then her phone went dark. No more calls, no more texts, no more activity of any kind. Police traced the number to another burner phone, purchased with cash at a convenience store 4 days earlier. The store's security footage showed a person in a hooded sweatshirt buying the phone, paying cash, keeping their face turned away from cameras. The phone was used exactly 4 times. Twice to text Maya, once to call her, and once more at 12:22 a.m. to make a 6-second call to a number that couldn't be traced. After that, the phone was never used again. It was likely destroyed, discarded, rendered untraceable. Whoever contacted Maya had planned carefully, left almost no trail, and disappeared as thoroughly as she had. Maya's car was found 3 days later in a wooded area about 30 miles outside the city. It was parked on an access road used occasionally by hikers and hunters, far enough from the main highway that it wouldn't be noticed immediately. The car was locked. The keys were missing. Inside, investigators found Maya's purse on the passenger seat, her wallet still containing her credit cards and cash. Her phone was not in the car. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no damaged upholstery, no broken glass. The car appeared to have been driven there deliberately and left. Forensic teams processed it thoroughly, collecting fingerprints, fibers, and trace evidence. Most of the prints belonged to Maya. A few others were identified as belonging to her friends who'd ridden in her car before. There was one partial print on the steering wheel that couldn't be matched to anyone in the system. That print remains unidentified, but Maya herself was not in the car. She was not in the surrounding woods. She was nowhere. Search teams combed the area for days, using dogs, drones, and volunteers. They found nothing. No clothing, no personal items, no remains. It was as if she'd driven to that isolated spot and then vanished into thin air. The location itself raised more questions than it answered. It was not a place Maya had any known connection to. Her friends had never heard her mention it. Her phone's GPS data from previous months showed she'd never been there before. Whoever drove her car to that location either knew the area well or had scouted it in advance. The investigation expanded. Detectives interviewed everyone Maya knew, her friends, her co-workers, her family. They looked into her recent communications, her financial records, her dating history. They found no evidence of threats, no troubled relationships, no indication she'd been planning to leave or disappear voluntarily. She had a stable job. She'd been making plans for the future, talking about a vacation she wanted to take in the spring. She had concert tickets for an event 2 weeks away. Nothing about her life suggested she was in crisis or wanted to vanish. And yet she had, completely, without explanation. Theories emerged, as they always do when the facts run dry. The first and most obvious was abduction. Someone had contacted Maya, lured her outside, and taken her. But who? And why? The person who texted her clearly knew where she was that night. They knew she was at the Riverside Tavern. They knew her phone number. That suggested either someone she knew or someone who'd been watching her. The casual tone of the messages, the vague reference to it being complicated, implied a level of familiarity. But when investigators cross-referenced everyone in Maya's life against the timeline and evidence, no one fit. Her ex-boyfriend had a solid alibi, confirmed by multiple witnesses. Her co-workers were accounted for. Her friends were all at the bar with her or had alibis elsewhere. Strangers don't usually know where someone is spending their Friday night unless they've been surveilling them, and there was no evidence of stalking, no prior suspicious incidents Maya had reported. A second theory suggested Maya had gone to meet someone willingly, perhaps a romantic interest she'd kept private, and something had gone wrong. But her close friends insisted they would have known if she was seeing someone new. Maya talked to them about her life. She didn't keep secrets of that magnitude. And if she had been meeting someone voluntarily, why would her phone be turned off immediately after the call? Why would her car end up abandoned miles away? Why wouldn't she have told at least one person where she was going? The theory felt plausible in the abstract, but fell apart under scrutiny. A darker theory, one investigators never fully dismissed, involved someone Maya knew in passing, someone who occupied the periphery of her life. A regular at the bar she'd spoken to casually, a client from work she'd met once or twice, someone who had access to her number, who knew enough about her patterns to predict where she'd be, but who wasn't close enough to raise suspicion. This kind of predator is the hardest to identify because they exist in the blind spots, the spaces between acquaintance and stranger. But without a specific suspect, the theory remained just that, a possibility, an explanation with no name attached. What happened after Maya walked out of that bar may never be fully known. The physical evidence is too sparse. The timeline has too many gaps. But investigators believe, based on the location where her car was found and the speed with which her phone went dark, that she was taken against her will within minutes of leaving. The call she answered at 12:16 likely drew her to a specific location outside the bar, perhaps to a nearby vehicle or a spot just out of view of cameras. Once there, she was either coerced or forced into leaving with someone. Her car was driven to the woods later, possibly by the same person, possibly as a way to buy time or create distance from the abduction site. The missing phone suggests whoever took her understood the importance of eliminating tracking devices. The abandoned car suggests someone who wanted to muddy the investigation, introduce uncertainty, make it unclear whether Maya had left of her own accord or been taken. Maya's family has never stopped searching for answers. Her mother maintains a social media page dedicated to the case, sharing updates, appealing for information, keeping Maya's name in the public consciousness. Her father has worked with private investigators, reviewing evidence the police collected, searching for angles that might have been missed. Her friends hold annual gatherings on the anniversary of her disappearance, lighting candles, sharing memories, refusing to let her become just another statistic. But despite their efforts, despite the media coverage and the police work and the public attention, Maya remains missing. No body has been recovered. No confession has been obtained. No credible leads have emerged in years. The case is officially classified as a suspected abduction and possible homicide, though without remains, no murder charges can be filed. The investigation remains open. Detectives still follow up on tips when they come in, though they come less frequently now. The detective originally assigned to the case has since retired, but he said publicly that Maya's disappearance is the one that haunts him most. The one where everything should have been solvable, where there were witnesses and security footage and phone records, but somehow it still wasn't enough. Sometimes, he said, the answers are right there, and you still can't see them. Sometimes people just vanish, and all you're left with is the last moment they were seen and 1,000 questions with no answers. There's a cruelty in not knowing. For Maya's family, the uncertainty is its own kind of torture. They can't mourn because there's no confirmation of death. They can't move forward because there's no closure. They exist in a permanent state of suspension, waiting for information that may never come. And for her friends, the guilt is overwhelming. They replay that night endlessly, asking themselves what they could have done differently. Should they have noticed something was wrong when Maya stepped outside? Should they have followed her? Should they have insisted she stay inside or asked more questions about who was texting her? The rational part of their minds knows they couldn't have predicted what would happen. But rationality doesn't ease the weight of hindsight. The Riverside Tavern is still open. People still go there on Friday nights. The same bartenders work the same shifts. But the staff who were there the night Maya disappeared say the place feels different now. There's a shadow over it. A memory that won't fade. Some patrons avoid the table where Maya sat with her friends. Others don't know the story and sit there without a second thought. The security camera is still mounted above the entrance, still recording everyone who comes and goes. But it didn't save Maya. It only documented the moment she left. What remains is the footage. The image of a young woman standing at a bar, smiling, waiting for a drink. The last confirmed sighting of someone who should still be here, who should have gone home that night, texted her friends the next morning, shown up for work on Monday. Who should have lived all the ordinary days that were stolen from her when she walked through that door and into the dark. Her life didn't end because of anything she did wrong. It ended because someone decided it would. Someone who planned carefully, who knew how to exploit trust, who understood that a simple text message could be enough to lure someone away from safety. And that person, whoever they are, has never been caught. They're still out there, still free, still carrying the truth of what happened to Maya Rothstein. The last night she was ever seen alive started as a celebration. It ended as a mystery. And somewhere, in the space between those two truths, a young woman's life was taken. The details of how and why may never be known, but the fact of her absence is undeniable. She was here. And then she wasn't. And the world keeps turning as if that's somehow acceptable, as if unanswered questions are just the price we pay for living in a world where not everything gets explained. But for the people who loved Maya, for the investigators who worked her case, for anyone who's ever wondered how someone can just disappear, the questions don't fade. They linger, they demand answers, and they remind us that every ordinary night carries the potential to become someone's last. That the moment you say, "I'll be right back," could be the moment everything changes. And that sometimes, despite our best efforts, despite our love and our vigilance and our desperate need to know, the silence wins.